Support for your public radio station comes from our members and from FoodLink, working to end hunger and build healthier communities, presenting the Festival of Food with tastings from local restaurants, wineries, and more Monday, September 15th at the Rochester Public Market. Tickets online at foodlinkny.org.
From WXXI News, this is Connections. I'm your guest host, Scott Pukas. Our connection this hour on Arts Friday starts with a proposal. In the new horror comedy Together, real-life couple Alison Brie and Dave Franco play a pair who are about to get very, very close. In an opening scene, Brie's character, Millie, proposes to Franco's Tim during a going-away party as the couple prepares to move out of the city and to a small upstate town. It's a sweet gesture, but turns awkward quickly as Tim takes entirely too long to respond and finally says yes in the least convincing way possible. The point is clear. This couple has been together for years. They're codependent on each other, and that spark has been gone for a while now. But like many couples looking to reignite the romance, you just have to fall into a mysterious terror cave in the woods. That's what happens here, and later, weird things naturally start happening to the pair. Strange, gross body horror that has audiences guffawing and squirming. Naturally, Together has been marketed by Neon, its distributor, as a date movie. Nothing says romance like having your hair meld with your partner's mouth. Minor spoiler, that does happen in the movie. Outside a billboard in LA for Together, featuring Brie and Franco's lips converging into each other, couples have taken to Instagram to post selfies in front of the image, with one person biting the other's lower lip to mimic the giant ad. It's not just Together. 2025 has featured lots of date movies that skip the typical rom-com formula. Is this the beginning of a new trend? Just smart marketing, or something else entirely? We will discuss that this hour here on Arts Friday. I'd like to welcome my guest this hour. We have Romer Johansson, copywriter and Little Theater member. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're also joined by Dave Palmer, a film critic for Gwinnifka, which is, of course, the Greater Western New York Film Critics Association. We will be saying Gwinnifka this hour. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a long title.
Joining us again is Adam Lubito, projectionist programmer at the Little Theater and programming director for Anomaly, the Rochester Genre Film Festival. Welcome back, Adam.
Always happy to be here talking movies.
And another one of my coworkers is joining us. We have Roberto Lagares, multimedia reporter for City Magazine. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And joining us by phone, we have Sarah Antow, rom-com expert and teaching staff member at the Focus Theater. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Hello, hello.
Sarah, my question is for you. When are you going to write a rom-com? When are we seeing the Sarah rom-com?
Let it cook, you know?
I immediately put you on the spot. That was my burning question that people are waiting to have answered. I'm going to start with you, Romer and Dave. You're our couple in the room, not to mention some of the biggest movie fans that I know. So early in your relationship, were your date movies typical like date films, or did you go for some of these unconventional picks?
I do think we went, unconventional. The first movie we bonded over was Scream, which coincidentally played at the Little last year. So stuff like that, Long Legs, not very conventional, that type of thing. The Substance. So yeah, I think we did kind of go unconventional there with the horror, but it keeps things exciting and it really, really lets you get to know the person up front.
The Substance, Long
The
Legs?
Substance.
Wild.
That is a litmus test, if ever there was one.
Exactly.
Dave, were you the one directing the ship here with these movies, or was this Romer?
I think we just both see anything, but like Romer said, it's kind of like you get a sense very early on if like your person's cool and if they can hang. Because if you think it's too weird, then it's like they might not appreciate the same things you do. But I think that seeing anything, but I think being alive in the era of weird movies at all that get mainstream love, I think is cool. And it's just, and then like you said, like bonding over like the classics, like Scream. We did like a whole Scream marathon after we saw it at the Little. What was another one we saw? It was some horror.
Oh, you said Anora. That's not true.
It's like weird. It's also weird dating though when you think about that. So, so I think just, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think part of the reason that, at least this was my observation, this trend that we're seeing these unconventional date movies, but I also feel we've been seeing fewer rom-coms. So Sarah, I'm going to start with you. Do you agree with that? Have we been seeing fewer traditional rom-coms recently?
At least on the like large scale distribution side, I feel like in like the streaming space, we've been seeing attempts at reviving what we know as like a classic rom-com, like protagonists meet, have like a little mini conflict that unfolds into just, mostly miscommunication plot. And then you got your side characters just being there to support and watching these two, navigate a relationship. And then ultimately, we kiss, we hug, we have a great sunset, at the end and everything's good. I'd say like modern rom-coms that I really have loved that have come out in the past 10 years, like The Big Sick, Set It Up. That was a great streaming example.
Set It Up's great.
Or even like this year with the Wedding Banquet remake, really, really great examples of taking that classic conventional formula and not really changing too much apart from, exploring different types of characters. I think that that's something that the genre has desperately needed. But you're right. I think that as far as big movies coming out, the classic rom-com has definitely dwindled. It's not coming out as often as it has been in the past.
And to build on one thing you were saying, we were talking before the show that a lot of us have noticed that rom-coms have taken more of a genre aspect. So Adam, I'll go to you. You are a programmer for a genre film festival, and one of my favorite rom-coms of recent years was Molly and Max in the Future, which is a sci-fi rom-com. It's I think you guys described it, and I latched onto this as When Harry Met Sally meets Futurama. So do you agree that we're seeing more genre elements in rom-coms?
Yeah, I think people are trying to find a unique take on, the standard formula. And I feel like that's kind of a symptom of the fact that, a lot of the traditional romantic comedies are now seen as kind of streaming fare, which is unfortunate because I always love a romantic comedy or comedy in general in theaters. But yeah, I think that people are trying to find something unique and new to do with the genre to make it, I hate to use the term elevate it because I'm not a fan of that, but I feel like that's the kind of the mindset of trying to find something new to do with it and to make it different in some way.
Okay. Yeah, Berta, what's your take? Are you seeing fewer rom-coms? Or are you happy with the level that is out there?
I think there's fewer rom-coms, but I also think that it's because modern day has like removed a lot of the, problems. Like pretty much since you couldn't like chase someone up to the flight, the
terminal.
at the terminal, right? Like as soon as you couldn't do that, it's like society kind of like, okay, well, a lot of the plots are ruined, or like,
what do we do now?
Social media, you know what I mean? Like it kind of ruined a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because of that, like that's kind of why you like long for like the nostalgic rom-coms. So yeah, I think there's a lot less, and I feel like that's probably why they're very like genre specific, because they have to like introduce like a different, like you can't, I don't know, the regular ones that are very like real world are very Hallmark now, because it's like, well, there's a lot of shots of cell phones and like text messages and like, miscommunication. But other than that, it's like you have to spice it up. And sometimes it's with, a pit of, in the middle of the woods, like that's.
and you mentioned the Hallmark movies. That's a genre unto itself. Like that is a very lucrative business. But again, those aren't in movie theaters. They're just on Hallmark and
I worry that they're like sucking the like rom-com like genre into it. I mean, maybe not, but like it just in the sense that like, big production studios are kind of like, let's throw it up on Netflix for 24 hours and that's it.
But even those type of movies are kind of trying to find a different take on it and almost turning into a genre, because I don't remember if it was actually Hallmark, but it was the one with the snowman came to life.
Oh yeah, Frosty.
Yeah, Hot Frosty.
Hot Frosty.
Yes.
Oh boy.
It was a film for sure.
It sure was.
I love the collective groans from the phone from this room.
That movie was unhinged, but I mean that's kind of what we're on about. But I mean, kind of like Netflix, like Lindsay Lohan has these string of holiday Hallmark-esque movies on Netflix, and like I like all of them for what they are. I mean, none of them are, I think, good, but that's kind of both to her career that and now she has Freakier Friday, but for the most part she's kind of been not in the spotlight, and so it's such a simple. I think Lohan is so 2000s nostalgic, especially for millennials, and the whole genre of like she has amnesia in one, she has the ex-boyfriend at the same party, so it's like all these cliches, kind of like you were getting at that like those can stand the test of time, but versus like you can't just be like a meet cute at a coffee shop. Let's meet here at 8 on Friday, because then you can text that you're on your way, something came up. So that's different than it was before.
Dating apps too. I think we see less meet cutes in real life. So to see them in movies, it is cool, but it's also I feel like less realistic. For I know so many people that met on dating apps with their partners. So yeah, that definitely changed things, I think.
Yeah, and I feel a lot of these movies that are kind of following this trend of untraditional rom-coms or untraditional date movies do have takes on modern romance, whether it's Materialist, which we'll talk about for a while, or one that I do want to talk about, which played at the Little and was one of my favorite movies of the year. It's Oh Hi, which I classified as a com-rom rather than a rom-com because I thought it had a lot of comedy. But we're going to do a clip here in one moment, but I'm just going to set this up a little. So Oh Hi stars Molly Gordon and Logan Lerman. It's from writer-director Sophie Brooks, who I'm so excited to see what she does next. But it's about a young couple. They're on their first weekend getaway together, and then they discover that they have different relationship goals. And then things take a turn toward misery territory. And when I say misery territory, I'm talking the 90s movie. I'm talking Stephen King. I'm talking that type of misery. So this clip is after some things have gone down in the movie, and then Molly Gordon, her character's friends arrive to this place to discover a predicament. So let's listen in.
Hey, I will.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. I was just pretty scary out there alone.
Kenny!
Hi, Iris.
Hi. Babe, you have to go. We have some lady stuff to sort out.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we would chill. Maybe I can make you a s'more or something.
Oh, that sounds so nice, but Iris is, she's cramping.
I'm just cramped. A lot of crampy.
It's, something that we need to deal with alone, so.
Okay, yeah. Where's Isaac?
We had a fight, and he took an Uber home.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Really? I really liked him. He's really cool.
He was cool.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you guys could get back together.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, yeah, well, I'll let you guys have friendship time, and then... Yeah, I'm just gonna use the bathroom quick.
Oh,
Be on my way.
No, my love. I miss you too much.
Why don't you just pee outside like all the guys do?
Be outside. It's a beautiful night.
No, I think I'd rather just go inside.
The bathroom's broken.
Oh, well, what have you been using?
The upstairs bathroom?
Okay, well, let's use that.
No.
Okay, what's going on? Why can't I use the bathroom? Was there like a dead body in there or something?
That is such jokes, Kenny. You're insane.
That is a clip from Oh Hi. Once again, a com-rom. If you're just joining us this hour, we're talking about untraditional rom-coms. Listeners, if you want to call in and comment on any of this or give us some movie recommendations, you can call at 844-295-TALK, toll free. If you're in Rochester, our local number is 585-263-9994. Sarah, I'm going to start with you. As you gave a great review of Oh Hi. Do you agree with my assessment that this is more comedy than rom?
I think that, yes, it does have an even balance of comedy and romance. But I think that the beginning of the movie, and I won't spoil anything for those who haven't seen it yet, but the top of the movie does a great job of painting like the escapism, that romantic weekend away with a brand new couple. They really put you in that headspace so that when that turn happens of something a little unhinged, that misery, that Kathy Bates-esque energy coming out, it can really give you that fun surprise that the comedy can really come in through really, really strong. So I think in that way, I wouldn't even say that comedy overshadows the romance. I think it's an even balance for this one.
Okay. Yeah, Dave and Robert, you guys did see this on a date, perhaps. What are your thoughts on Oh Hi?
Yeah. We both really liked it. I do think it falls, like, definitely com-rom, like you said, but I think it's interesting because as we talk about these other movies, it does kind of investigate, like, the horrors of modern dating. And, like, without, giving too much away, there's commitment issues and stuff like that. And I just feel like it really, this it's interesting to see movies reflect these things that we see in real life become problems. And, you know, as you brought up Materialist briefly, like everything becomes transactional, and we do satire in that type with movies. So I do think it's interesting to see how we are investigating these things that, you know, maybe is a little outrageous in Ohio, but everybody's experienced that, you know, commitment issues, the person who, you know, isn't as into it as you are, that type of thing. But yeah, it is a fascinating trend. And
yeah, I forgot how funny that movie is. It really is. I think I love both the leads in that. I think Kenny, the boyfriend? I think he was really good.
So he was the one we heard speaking at the beginning.
He's
The one who was
little-
aloof in that clip and didn't know what was
He's just like the
happening.
innocent boyfriend.
Yeah.
But I think kind of and you were getting at it too, is that kind of the romanticization, I guess, of like everyone wanted that Pretty Woman story. Everyone wanted like the Runaway Bride. I guess both Julia Roberts. But and I think the romanticizing of dating is kind of a little bit gone out the window, like it was in the 80s and 90s. I feel everyone's kind of so particular now that about, you know, I want this person to meet all this criteria, like you said with Materialists. And then I know that when you saw Oh Hi, people must have not seen the trailer to know what the big, it's not even a twist because it's the first 10 minutes, but half hour. But just some people like, you know, gasped, some people like laughed. I know that that we saw it with one of her friends who was visiting, and she like cackled at one line that Logan Lerman gave, just because she's like, oh, I know a guy just like that.
Yeah.
And so I think it kind of, like Adam was getting at, it kind of holds a mirror to reality, and I think horror has always done that. Obviously, it's not really a horror film itself, but I think that it is obviously something Molly Gordon, as a millennial, she co-wrote it, she produced it. I'm sure has gone through with friends, and so yeah, I think we're seeing more young filmmakers put their own experiences into films, and as opposed to just sticking by like the genre boxes to check.
Yeah, it takes a relatable instance, which in this case is a guy who doesn't want to commit, despite leading on his partner, and then it takes it to an extreme and a very funny, funny place, a madcap place. But Dave, you had mentioned something that got me thinking. You mentioned Julia Roberts, and it got me thinking. We, in a lot of the classic rom-coms or traditional ones or ones of the 80s, 90s, there is that big movie star that is like a rom-com icon. Is one of the reasons perhaps that we're not seeing as many of these because we don't have that rom-com star? Am I onto something here, Adam, or is this
I think
not?
so. We don't really have movie stars in the same way we did as, you know, that era, the 80s, where, you know, we still, I guess what I was gonna say with like Tom Cruise, I guess we still have Tom Cruise, but there's not like new
He's not in any rom-coms.
Yeah, there's no, I feel like, more modern equivalent of that.
Right.
And movies don't tend to get built around stars the way they did, you know, the movie star era. I feel like it's more about the, you know, IP and the property and the movie itself rather than who's in it. And there are pluses and minuses to that, you know. I do miss that kind of movie star style of performances, and, you know, where people would look forward to be like, oh, there's a new Julia Roberts movie, there's a new Tom Cruise, there's Tom Hanks, you know, there was an endless list of people, and we don't have that anymore. And yeah, there are pluses and minuses to that. I'm of two minds.
We were talking. You're gonna have to remind me the name of the Glenn Powell, Sydney
Anyone But
Sweeney
You.
movie. Yes.
Yeah.
So that was a film that was a rom-com that came out this year.
Like
That
about like was it Christmas? So 23. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, so wasn't this okay?
No, it's just on Netflix. It got re-put on Netflix, and so I got a bump. But I mean, I think that's an example. Kind of that came out at the beginning of Glenn Powell's little spike last year with Twisters and Hitman. He had Anyone But You, and so that kind of is the closest we've gotten. Obviously, Sydney Sweeney is like I feel she's not like a movie star, but, you know, everyone knows her name. That and like Ticket to Paradise with Clooney and Julia Roberts. But I think people more go because they long for, you know, just seeing hot people in a rom-com, not so much, like Adam said, like going for a specific person anymore. And like Adam also said, I think that can be of two minds because it forces writers to be a little creative to sell the film itself, but also it's harder, A, maybe to get made, and then B, it's like it is fun just to see like Tom Cruise and Renee Zellweger just in a movie doing something.
Yeah. Sarah, so I heard you agreeing here. Are you looking for more stars here for our rom-coms? Do we need a new rom-com star?
I don't think that we necessarily need a star, but I do think that these trope-driven plots, like I think that that's the challenge for anybody that writes a rom-com is to take these tropes, which are warm blankets to the audience. We're coming in, we know that if there's, a hotel and there's only one room, or, they're on a road trip and it's an old car, we know they're going to break down. We know that if there are two exes and they have a common friend, that they're going to end up running into each other. There are going to be those really comfortable plots that we recognize. And I think being able to take a fresh take, and maybe that's kind of why we have the trend that we have right now with these unconventional date movies, is that we're expanding out from there. If we do have a star, let it be a star that's not going to take us out of the movie. I think Glenn Powell had a great year last year, and I do have my own opinions about Anyone But You, but he did do what a rom-com hero does. He just come in as, kind of like the personality hire and go in and just be charming and just McConaughey top to bottom and then leave. And I think that he does that pretty successfully. I think that for a star to be there, it has to be somebody that people feel comfortable with. People want to see move up, maybe like a middle grade star, not full A-list, somebody on the rise, somebody that's wanting to break into, more intense roles, more highly publicized roles, things like that.
And you mentioned Glenn Powell, like Hitman, I think what actually kind of works for our conversation as an unconventional date movie, where Glenn Powell is pretending to be a hitman, and then he ends up meeting what's the actress's name? Can you remind me, Adam? Adriana Arjona.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good pull.
And it was like at the tip of my tongue. And that is a movie called Hitman. You wouldn't think of as like a date movie, but that works a lot in romance, and it kind of gets a little darker at the end. Adam, I remember you saw that at TIFF and were raving about it and really got me hooked on it before it played. Do you agree with that, with Hitman?
Yeah, absolutely. But I also feel like that kind of proves the whole streaming Netflix of it all. And that I saw that at TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival, and watched it with a enthusiastic audience. And it was so much fun. I was like, this is going to be huge. Like, this is so charming and so fun. And then it got picked up by Netflix, and it got a tiny release, and then they dropped it on streaming. And then I feel like the conversation about that movie was like a hot second, and then went away completely, which is such a bummer, because I can't describe, like, the feeling in that theater was just so fun and energizing, and people left being like, yeah, this is going to be the biggest thing of the year for several years, and then it just didn't happen, which was so disappointing.
And I'll just hop on that, two things. One, like, I saw the people that I follow, and same thing after they saw Hitman in 2022, right, 23. They saw it the year before it came out at TIFF, and same thing. They all loved it, and they were like, this is going to be my top 10. Oops, I got to bump it to next year's top 10. But they said it plays great in an audience, and then it goes to there. It did play at the Little, and we saw it at the Little, and it's actually, ironically, the first time Rob and I, crossed paths. We didn't say hi, but, we had clocked each other. So that's, a fun little
Was someone
stamp.
Undercover in your meeting?
It was like that. But I think just to go with the streaming of it all, I think Amazon randomly has a couple I just jotted down. I Want You Back, Upgrade, Idea of You. It's these are all pretty basic, each one of them. You have the I Want My Ex Back, you have the Meet Cute Misunderstanding, you have the Mismatched Couple, and those all kind of have names attached one way or another. And so I think it's not gone away, it's just gone to streaming, which is unfortunate, just because the only way it can really stay relevant is if it's a meme. Anne Hathaway is the meme and Idea of You of screaming and shutting the computer, and that still gets tossed around. And so I think we need to just put them in theaters and let audiences play with it, because Hitman played so well in a theater, like Adam said, and then you watch it alone, you're like, yeah, I mean, that was cool, I guess.
And I agree. And for our listeners who don't know, I also work at the Little Theater. So obviously I'm a big proponent of the communal experience. I think watching a film in a theater, you can't beat that, because you just have different reactions when people are just hooting and hollering and guffawing and cackling at different points in the movie. I think that always adds to the enjoyment. Berto, I'm going to go to you. When you are looking for a date movie to watch with your wife, what do you look for? Is it the big star? Is it the premise? Or is it something else?
I think we are usually drawn. We go through stages of being drawn by certain actors, and I think we just realized that recently, where it's we'll watch a movie and it maybe has Leonardo DiCaprio in it, and then we're like, I kind of want to watch more Leo, or I kind of want to watch another like Brad Pitt film or whatever. We kind of let that like guide us. If my wife could always choose, it would probably always be like a horror film. Something like I'm the exact opposite. I don't like horror films. When we went to see Together at the Little, I was like, hey, we should go see it because I was interested in it. And she was very much like, you want to see that? And I'm like, I do. I feel like, that's something I'll give it a shot. I also love Dave Franco, so like he'll get me to watch anything. But yeah, that's kind of like the vibe we go off of is usually like the big stars to kind of guide our decision. And then also like if it's really heavy genre night where, we're kind of battling that out. And usually it's whatever, horror movie she can convince me to watch.
How often is she convincing you to see these like horror movies, body horror, any type of
do you have
horror?
like a limit of like, you're like, I'm not going to watch Saw? Or...
Sorry, that's the thing. I don't know what it is. It's like sometimes it depends on how gross it is. Like I won't watch Substance. And I don't have any like necessarily spoilers of it other than a few memes, I guess, but like enough where I was like, I'm not gonna watch
The
that.
Substance is more a comedy, though. I almost feel like I think it's very funny.
It's so
It
unhinged.
goes so
And
over
that's-
the top.
And that's where I'm like, I've had these like talks with people where I'm like, I give it a shot, but I'm just like, it's just not for me. Like even though I know that's like we also have our own list of like, it's okay to watch these by yourself. Like you can watch this by yourself. Like for me, it was like Lighthouse or something. And then she's like, I don't want to watch that. That seems boring. And I'm like, okay. And then she's got like, Substance is on her list. So it's kind of navigating that. And then like, it makes those movies that we end up like landing on like that much more, date night. And I feel like sometimes arguably the most like obscure things can be a date night movie. It doesn't necessarily have to have like that premise. Like I'm a big proponent that any Nicolas Cage movie is a date night movie.
Oh, I love that.
Did you see Server? Sorry, I cut you off.
Sir, I don't think I have.
Oh, it came out this year. I liked it a lot. That's like a you like it or you very much hate it movie, but I liked it.
It's like like his whole premise is exactly that. It's like you either love him or you hate him.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking of the 90s Nick Cage movies and Face Off as a
Great.
romantic movie. Like
Great.
swapping faces.
Yes.
What's more
What's more romantic than that? Exactly.
I want to wear your
Con Air.
skin. Yeah.
Yeah. Con Air, I
So
think
intimate.
is a big one.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm thinking maybe it's a good time to take a break now. So we're going to take a break. If you're just tuning in, we are talking about untraditional romance movies. I'm joined by Robert Johansson, a Little Theater member, Dave Palmer, a Gwynifka film critic, Adam Lubito with the Little and Anomaly Rochester Genre Film Festival, Robert Lagaris of City Magazine, and Sarah Antow, a rom-com expert. We'll have more connections right after this break.
Support for your public radio station comes from our members and from United Way of Greater Rochester and the Finger Lakes, serving the community for more than 100 years, dedicated to creating a future where everyone's basic needs are met so all can thrive. More at unitedwayrocflx.org.
And we are back at Connections. This hour, we are talking about untraditional date movies. If you are listening and you want to give us your suggestions, you can call in toll free at 844-295-TALK. Or if you're here in Rochester, our local number is 585-263-9994. So one thing that we had been talking about during the break, and I think, and I mentioned in my intro, a big part of this is the marketing. Like I was talking about Together a lot, set it up in the intro. And a lot of that is, I think, our perception of this movie as a date movie comes from Neon, the distributor, marketing that way. And all the posters, they had a huge quote that said, the perfect date movie. I'd mentioned the billboard that, went viral with people kissing out in front of it, which is great marketing for that movie. We had a poster outside the Little. I wanted people to do that, but they did not do that. Looking at the couples in the room for not doing that. But Robert, do you want to talk a little bit about this? Like, how much of this trend do you think is from this unique or creative marketing?
Yeah, I think marketing has a lot to do with it, especially in the social media days. That's how people hear about your movies. I don't think we've mentioned Hard Eyes yet, but that was another one that came out this year where, it was the Hard Eyes killer on Valentine's Day. He goes around slashing couples. So some of their marketing for that, I remember they sent out little Valentine's Day, little Valentine cards, and it was like, stay single, stay safe, so like playing to the singles there, or no couple is safe, and that's playing to the couples there. And also, Materialist had some great marketing where they actually started a website, and it was like basically like the New York Stock Exchange, and men could submit themselves, or I think people could submit other people as well. But it was basically like height, age. There was a salary question. I think there was something that it was a category for hair, and it was just yes or no. Do you have hair? Yes or no. And then all these factors would play into something where you got ranked based on like dateability. Are you worth investing in? So that's very creative, and that also just speaks to the whole like everything becomes transactional. You know, that was the whole thing about Materialists. But I just feel like these unique marketing tactics that movies are doing really do get people out to see them.
Yeah, so we're going to get to a materials clip in a moment, but I do want to dive in a little more on that marketing. Sarah, is there anything in the marketing that really will sell you on any of this?
Boy, I got to tell you, I mean, they picked really great leads for that movie. I mean, it was casted, they were all unbelievable talents, but putting them all three and marketing together and just having them just create this charisma vacuum really pushed me to go, because I mean, I was going to go see it anyway, but to see all of them together, I'm like, okay, if they do have a scene together, it's going to be really crackling and great. I think they did a great job of showing us that it's going to be, you know, about the transactional side of dating, but it's also going to be fun to some degree. I think that there might be some cute and like fun tension moments. It definitely was interesting coming out of the theater and having that full experience of what that story was going to be. But overall, yeah, seeing those stars together, the marketing was really, really smart.
Yeah, so diving in a little bit more on Materialist. So that was from Celine Song, who, of course, did Past Lives in 2023, which was my favorite movie that year.
So good.
Devastating in all the best ways. Like, it makes you cry a lot, but I think it's a cathartic cry. Stars Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, Pedro Pascal, who is in a lot of movies this year, which we love to see. But I found this movie to be very pessimistic and bleak. And so we're going to get to our clip here in a second, which it's I believe it from the trailer, but it kind of gives you a little taste of their view on modern dating. So let's take a listen.
Hey, are you single? I'm a matchmaker. Give me a call if you want to meet somebody.
I deserve someone who fulfills all of my criteria.
Nothing over 20 BMI.
I don't want someone who likes cats. I'm trying to settle.
I promise you're going to marry the love of your life.
How many marriages are you responsible for now, Lucy?
9. If the girl asks for a call, drink of water, with a salary over 500 grand, you deliver.
So that was a clip from Materialist, the trailer. So that was Dakota Johnson as a matchmaker. And like, as you can tell from the trailer, like a lot of these scenes with the matchmaking, it's a lot of like shallowness and people like just looking at the stats, and it's very cynical, which it was in like this movie was marketed as a rom-com as well, and it has all these beautiful looking stars, but watching it, I didn't know if that quite fits. So Berto, I'm going to go with you with this question. Do you ever have disappointment if that marketing makes you think like, oh, this is a great date movie, and then you go watch something like Materialist or another movie and it doesn't fit that expectation? Does that change your overall view of the film?
Yeah, I would say so. Because I try not to like let my letterbox influence any views too much. I want to go in completely blind. But I mean, you can't ignore the marketing, because like how else did you learn about the movie? But yeah, I think if it's misleading or it doesn't hit the mark for me with what they promised and how I would interpret it, I'm kind of like, like even if it was like a good movie, I'm kind of like, this is very disappointing. I don't know if I'd like recommend it. I don't know if I really like it, because it's like, yeah, it was good, but you marketed it to me as like, this is a romance, whatever, good date night movie, and I was like, it was just a good movie, or it was bad. I mean, or it's bad, or if like they throw in those stars, I don't like when they're not in it very much. Like, don't show me Pedro Pascal if he's not really in the movie,
He has the funniest line in that movie, though, which I won't say because that would be a spoiler. But he does have the funniest line in Materialist. Adam, do you agree with this? Like, if you're expecting one thing and maybe that's because of the marketing, does that ever change your overall view of this film?
Yeah, I feel like you can't help but be swayed by, if the distributor or a studio goes to a trouble of like creating a picture in your mind of what the movie is going to be, there's always that danger of if it doesn't turn out to be exactly what you had imagined the film you were going to get. That said, I haven't seen Materialists. I really want to, but I did hear from a lot of people who felt, I don't know if burned is the right word, but were expecting one thing from that movie based on the marketing, and it was not what they got. And I feel like that in a lot of ways hurt that movie a little bit, even if, I heard a lot of positive things, but it still had that sense of that wasn't exactly what the movie I went to the theater to see wasn't what I got. And that can't help, I feel like, then kind of leave a bad taste in your mouth for people.
Mm-hmm. So Dave, you did see Materialist. Did you have that feeling from this movie? Was it something different from what you expected?
Yeah, so like what Berto and Adam said, it was absolutely marketed, and like they verbatim said like rom-coms are back, like A24 like tweeted that with the trailer and everything, and they had you heard they had that I think 90s song, and so it was very clearly, and they shipped it like a rom-com. And then it's almost like an anti-rom-com, which I think I appreciate when those come out. But it's very pessimistic, and in a way that kind of almost works. It doesn't work for the film, because like definitely if you're going expecting like an LOL type rom-com, and then it's like just like people being transactional, like Romer said about dating, because it got like a B- cinema score, and I feel like something like that should be like audiences should really like and embrace those films. And so it very quickly on, like I think it's clear in Materialist that it's not going to be a rom-com, that it's like going to be like a romantic drama that has some comedy elements. So I was able to kind of pivot my mindset early enough, but there's definitely those cases where like, yeah, if you go in expecting like an LOL throwback rom-com, and it's like talking about how women just want like money and tall guys, and men are shallow about age and like, what like just looks, then I think that could hurt a film. That being said, our audience was mostly, I think, a lot of like middle-aged women, like friend groups, and they were dying. Like there was one line where a guy who's like, I think he's like 36, and he's like, I don't want anyone like over like 27, and like they all like howled, like laughing at him and the absurdity of that statement, because like most of them are out at the dating pool now, where they don't know what some guys expect to get.
I like how you can quote cinema scores. That was very impressive.
That's like I could probably pull a random one, but yeah, no. So I think it's clear, it's hard to get a B- cinema score for that type of movie. So like, but then you saw something like Weapons, where Weapons gets an A-, and that's really rare for horror. And Weapons was, I don't think really what I think everyone who's seen Weapons and even likes it, it wasn't what they thought. It's much. Like no one was expecting this Magnolia type film. And so sometimes it can subvert expectations. Like 28 Years Later is one that we both said absolutely everything in that movie is not what I expected, and yet every decision they made I loved. And so sometimes you do have to mislead a film to either save spoilers, or because you're like, I know you're going to like this, but I don't trust you to come into on your own. And so they have to kind of hold your hand into the theater and then be like, trust that an audience can like it.
And Romer, so you saw Materialist as well, and I believe Celine Song did work as a matchmaker too. So I don't know how much that influenced the movie, but did you feel that you were misled with this movie, or was it pretty much kind of what you were expecting?
I do feel, yeah. I mean, knowing her first movie, Past Lives, it was definitely not very upbeat rom-com, so I think I kind of knew not to expect that. But the marketing definitely was, billing it as a rom-com. And basically what everyone else said, I do think that can work against you. But I also think from a studio's perspective, it's like if they got you into the theater, they got your money, they got the ticket, you saw it, whether you liked it or not, like they got your money. So that's one side of it. But the other side is if you're subverting expectations too much and people don't like it and they're going all over social media and talking about it, that can hurt you too. So I do feel like it's a double-edged sword for sure.
Now, we've been talking a lot this hour about how, sorry, Sarah, were you going to say something?
Just one last thing. This is coming up as we're talking about it, and I too kind of felt that bait and switch a little bit as I was in. I did get to see one of the posts from A24 that showed like all of the reference movies that Celine Song had when she was writing the film, and Remains of the Day was like in the top 5, and I'm like, okay, this is what the tone is going to be after all. After seeing all of like the very frilly rom-com is back marketing, but when I walked out of that movie and I felt like, okay, they got my money, I feel kind of tricked. It did make me think that maybe the marketing was trying to go for some kind of meta approach and just missed the mark. Like they subverted expectations a little too much, kind of like how we go into a date through an app and it's really transactional and we feel super giddy the first time. Like this one's going to be it. This is going to be so fun. I have really good ideas about who this person might be based on like the really surface information I have. And then you kind of walk out of it not quite where you started. And I'm wondering if maybe that's what the marketing was trying to do in a really smart way, but might not have hit the mark the way they wanted to.
That would be brilliant marketing.
I was going to say, that's an incredible observation. If that's what they were going for.
If they were going for that, then kudos. Then I like that movie a lot more. That's so impressive.
It's a risky strategy.
Risky, but we appreciate boldness. So we've been talking a lot this hour about how this is a new trend, but I do think there are other movies that fit that untraditional date movie. And so our caller on line one here, who I believe is another Gwinifka member, Jordan from Buffalo, has a 1999 movie as his untraditional date night movie. So we will listen in here. Jordan, can you hear us?
Hey, good to hear from you, Scott.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
Oh, happy to. I'm on my lunch break, so it worked out perfect.
We love that.
Yes,
so you want to tell us about your film that is an untraditional date movie?
Yeah, and actually, I was lucky enough to see it just a few weeks ago at the Dryden Theater in Rochester with some of my fellow critics that are on call with you guys right now as well. It's Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut from 1999. It was his last film ever made. A very unconventional psychosexual drama / erotic thriller starring Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, real-life married couple that at the time. It was the late master swan song. It came out to very polarizing reviews, but nowadays it's widely considered one of his best films. It's a very powerful examination of marriage and fidelity and dreams and sexual jealousy, all set in this kind of surreal, like nocturnal dreamscape of New York City at the turn of the century. And as dark and as much of a downer as it can be at times, because of course it's a Stanley Kubrick film. There's going to be death. There's going to be a lot of heaviness. It is a weirdly upbeat romantic film too. I was able to see it with my wife, who joined me for the screening, and we both loved it. And I can't recommend it enough. And I'm sure that Adam and Dave and Romer, who saw it as well, will have nothing but good things to say about it as well. So I just wanted to call in and say that.
Well, thank you so much for calling in. I wish you could see some of the faces when you were talking about how a romantic movie it is. But I love that because that's exactly what we're talking about. This, like, a movie that you don't think of as a romantic movie, and it somehow hits the mark. So that is perfect.
It ends on a relatively sunny note, considering the Kubrick canon that preceded it. It is a clear-eyed, but ultimately, I think, hopeful look at marriage and just about the importance of taking things day by day and always being open and honest with your partner. Maybe not too honest, but being honest enough about the things that really matter and, just being a good husband. So I love the movie. I know Stanley loved it. He considered it his finest contribution to the art of cinema, and I know his wife Christiane loves it very much as well. So,
and she painted a picture of the cat in that movie, right, on the wall. I think you told me that.
She painted all the pictures you see in the movie. Yeah, all the ones that are in the apartment that Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman share. She did the nude photo in Victor Ziegler's bathroom where the woman ODs. Yeah, she it's low key just a love letter to Christiane from Stanley.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for calling in. Stay on the line so you can listen in, but thanks for calling.
Awesome. Thank you.
So yeah, it is something, we are running out of time, but I did want to talk about movies that fit this mold, that are not recent, something like 99's Eyes Wide Shut. So, Romer, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you agree with Eyes Wide Shut fitting this mold? And do you have another movie that fits this?
In terms of Eyes Wide Shut, yeah, why not? You know, we're all here to have a good time. Things can get trippy and weird, but why not? I was thinking earlier, Strange Darling. I think that was 2023. It's kind of recent, but not. Villains too. That had Bill Skarsgård and Micah Monroe. I think late 2010s. More just, I think those are more in the horror genre, but again, it features couples and it features them, you know, either being tormented together or doing something that's non-traditional. But it really just does spice it up and like keep you interested. So yeah, those are two I can think of.
I think it's interesting with Eyes Wide Shut and tying it together how obviously Franco and Alison Brie are married in real life, and they worked on this project together. And then Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick kept Kidman and Cruise in separate hotels when they were filming because he wanted to create like that little bit sense of like apartness, and like because they were married in real life, obviously he wanted them to have some coldness between them. I love how pathetic Tom Cruise is in Eyes Wide Shut. But yeah, I mean, I think obviously we've always had the marriage aspect of society, and I think it's changing. It's always ebbing and flowing of like what does society think of marriage, like how much of a establishment do people give it versus like the casual dating we see now. It's definitely, that's a film to talk about when it comes to relationships for sure. It's something.
Sarah, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have a movie that maybe is not recent that kind of fits what we're talking about?
I mean, the first one that comes to mind, like Lars and the Real Girl, is that's one that comes to me. You know what I mean? Like an unconventional date movie rom-com that does definitely explore that fringe. I really enjoyed that one for sure.
Yeah, so for context, Lars and the Real Girl, if you don't know, stars Ryan Gosling, and he is dating a mannequin throughout that movie. So it is very much untraditional.
I think too, real quick, just Her has become a documentary at this point, and it's insane to see like all the AI couples.
Which is Joaquin Phoenix, and in that movie, he ends up falling for AI on the phone, which is voiced by Scarlett Johansson as well.
Spike Jones is vindicated.
Yeah. Berto, do you have one that fits this trend?
First one that comes to mind is Vanilla Sky.
Oh, okay.
I feel like that, in the sense that I feel like it captures like the consequential side of relationships and like making one decision can like change everything. And I think that just like really like I don't know drives it home. And there's also like the vanity aspect of the film and all that. So I feel like it has a lot of layers. I watched it for the first time, I think, this year. I luck out on that a lot, where it's like I have no spoilers for like really big movies that everyone seems to have watched. But yeah, I feel like that just kind of like fits this like unconventional mold, and maybe it doesn't always end. I don't know, like how you. I didn't know where that movie was going, and like the entire time. So.
I love revisiting a movie that most people have watched, and then you get so excited about it and want to talk to people and be like, I get it now. It's such a good feeling. Adam, do you have any throwback ones for us?
I mean, it's not a huge throwback, but there's one that I've definitely talked with you about that my partner and I think is one of the most romantic movies there's ever been. I know where this is going. Which is Phantom Thread. A movie, Paul Thomas Anderson, set in the world of 1950s fashion about a fashion designer. And the muse and their relationship and the push and pull and the power dynamics between them. And it goes some places that you might not expect for a romance. There may be some poisoning involved, but I feel like at the heart of like this entire conversation of, non-traditional romances, relationships are weird, and everybody's relationship is weird in their own unique, different way. And so there's lots of fertile ground there. And what you find romantic is not the same as the next person. But yeah, Phantom Thread is, to us, deeply romantic film.
There was one time where Matt, your partner, was sick, and I was like, Adam, did you Phantom Thread? Which if you know, you know. We won't spoil it anymore. But well, actually, I'm going to say with you, Adam, so you were talking about throwback ones, but let's look ahead a little. I think we've been talking about this trend, and we're continuing to see it. I think we'll see it with more films. Is there anything coming up, perhaps at the Little Theater, that fits this trend? It doesn't have to be at the Little, but anything that you could think of that kind of fits this one?
The first thing that I think of that, I don't know, kind of fits, I feel like it's more calm than rom. There's The Roses coming up, which is a remake of The War of the Roses, about a bitter divorce between a married couple. This time played by Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch. I don't know how much romance there will be. At least there will be at the beginning. I'm positive of that. But it's going to go some weird and dark places.
We're talking about marketing. I got a TikTok the other day that was just clips of Andy Samberg from that.
I
And
saw
I'm like,
that
what
one, yeah.
movie is this? Looks so
I was
funny.
so confused
And
for
I
a
was like,
second.
oh, it's that one. I'm like, oh, they got their mark. So we're running low on time. So I'm going to go to each of you, and you're going to give me a movie recommendation of, it could be this trend or it could be whatever you think of. So Sarah, I'll go with you next. Is there any movie that you want to recommend to people that fit this trend?
Oof. Well, I mean, I just saw Ojai last week, and if the minute it comes to streaming or is available to everyone in theaters and a wider release, please go see it or watch it at home. It is a really, really fun time.
All right. I see some people looking up their movies. So I'll tell you mine because I've been talking about, I like the genre mashups of Molly and Max in the future. But speaking of Andy Samberg, Palm Springs,
Great
time
movie.
loop rom-com, like absolutely my jam. And it's romantic too. I think it works as both comedy and it works as both the com and the rom, even though that could be a com-rom as well. Romer, do you have one for us?
Yeah, I was going to say Molly and Max, definitely essential. Also Lisa Frankenstein, definitely. It's a kind of recent, but it subverts expectations. She's kind of dating a decomposing, I won't give too much away, but Lisa Frankenstein, it's a good one.
All right, 10 seconds, Dave. Do you have one?
The Heartbreak Gallery, I think it's called. It's like 2020. It was one of the first COVID movies back. Randomly watched that a couple times. I think it's a fun anti-rom-com.
Right, Berto, 5 seconds.
Together, just go watch it.
I love it. Thank you so much for listening this hour. Thank you to my guests, Romer Johansson, Dave Palmer, Adam Lubito, Roberto Lagares, Sarah Antow. Stay tuned for more Connections next.
This program is a production of WXXI Public Radio. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of this station, its staff, management, or underwriters. The broadcast is meant for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or use in another medium without expressed written consent of WXXI is strictly prohibited. Connections with Evan Dawson is available as a podcast. Just click on the Connections link at WXXInews.org.